Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. Today we're discussing the Omega Seamaster 300, 41mm in grade 5 titanium with ceramic liquid metal style bezel. You can see and you can purchase this Master Co-Axial chronometer on our website. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you enjoy these videos, and please click on the card in the upper right hand corner of the screen at any time during this video to see our full sales listing for this watch with additional accessories included in the sale, high resolution images for your desktop, and naturally complete pricing details for this Omega Seamaster 300 in grade 5 titanium. Unveiled at Baselworld 2014 and arguably the star of that show alongside the Rolex Pepsi bezel GMT in white gold and the Sea Dweller 40. This watch may be the best version of that family of historically inspired Omega Seamaster models. Now, the watch on my wrist is light as a feather in grade 5 titanium, the harder and more refined of the two titanium options. In general, when you see polish, you know you're looking at grade 5 because grade 2 simply won't accept it easily. Moreover, because the grade 5 construction is so robust, the watch is better able to hold that polish and satin grain where present. The timepiece sits nice and flat, comfortable and square on my 16cm circumference wrist. It's 41mm across the round of the case, but for those of you who have trouble with dive watch crowns that dig your wrist, take note that the historically inspired profile of this case obviates the need for a crown guard. Reasoning that your hand is probably gone if the crown gets hit that hard, Omega rightly concluded that a screw-down crown was sufficient, and given the location, and given the fact that most of us frankly don't use these watches as professional dive gear, the crown is quite secure and, by a happy coincidence, also unlikely to dig your wrist. From lug to lug, the watch is a reasonably compact 48mm. It's actually 52mm, 52.2 to be precise, if you measure the solid end links of the bracelet across the wrist. Now, this watch is an excellent candidate for placement on a leather, rubber, or NATO strap, so take note that 48 across the wrist is going to be your damage if you're on a strap. And if you do want to put the watch on a strap, 21mm is the lug spacing for this one. Stay tuned till the end, too, for a loom shot. Now, the bracelet is very comfortable. I'll show you the watch's profile and remind you that although it is quite sheer in profile, it's an acceptable 14.9mm thick, which means you should be able to wear it underneath a suit jacket, blazer, or sport jacket cuff. The timepiece has a wonderfully made bracelet. It's a little bit unnervingly light if you're used to steel or precious metal, but it's made beautifully. It's very robust, and as you can see, it is sized entirely with screws. This is modern era Omega build quality. Combination of satin finish on the flanks of the links, intermediate links in high polish, and the flanks outboard are polished. The clasp itself is nicely made, hollowed out from the solid, also titanium, twin triggers, both polished for a handsome contrast with the satin top. There's also a polished bevel along the flanks, engraved Omega logo, and a thoughtful push-button slider mechanism that allows you to incrementally adjust a little over 1 centimeter, so you can pull it out for use over a diving suit or simply to adjust as your wrist expands and contracts in the course of a hot, cold, active, or inactive day. The case is simple, historically inspired. It reaches back to the Seamaster 300 of 1957. From whence it derives features of its bezel, case, and dial. Now, you'll note that the case is handsome in its finish, and there is some nuance in the contrast between the polished bevel that runs the case band and flares at the lugs, and the satin finish that defines the horizontal sweep. You'll also note that the underside of the bezel of high polish, as well as the case back, and in true mid-century fashion, the middle case is quite slender and almost has the overtones of a modern dress watch thanks to that sleek and compact side profile. Of course, the dial is the highlight, but the bezel is one of the true value-added features of the watch. The detent is satisfying, if somewhat finer and less chunky than previous Seamaster 300 models and Planet Ocean models. The watch features a ceramic blue insert, which is effectively as scratch resistant as the sapphire crystal. Liquid metal inserts are bonded to the ceramic, the liquid metal being an amorphous crystalline grain type of alloy that effectively permabonds to the ceramic, making the two one component from a functional standpoint. Now, you can line up the dot, the pearl of the bezel with the Dauphine style minute hand, and then you have an impromptu timer that counts down from 60. It's more practical, in my opinion, than a conventional chronograph because the minute hand is easy to follow and it's easy to read at a glance. Also, most of the intervals I've ever timed with a proper chronograph have turned out to be less than an hour. I find that this is a better solution functionally, and down the road it has lower maintenance costs. The construction of the dial is somewhat like a Panerai sandwich dial, as there are wells that feature large and rather voluminous plots of triangular or dart-shaped patina-style luminescence. It is superluminova. It has a little bit of a patina coloration to it. It's supposed to evoke the color that radium would have assumed over the decades on an original 1950s Omega Seamaster. You'll also note the broad arrow style hour hand and the quarter Arabics, helping to recall that era. The dial itself is a navy blue that matches as closely as possible, given its granular texture versus polish, the coloration of the bezel itself. Now, the watch features a screw-down crown, as I mentioned, so that's the degree of security you have against damage as well as water intrusion. 300-meter water resistance. Pull the crown to extremity, you hack the balance, you stop the seconds hand, you can synchronize to a reference time. Pull the crown to its intermediate position, and now, while the watch continues to tick and keep time, you can jump forward or backwards in 1 hour increments as you traverse the time zones of the world. Now, of course, you can wind the watch manually, and it actually has the quality of being a nice winder with a pleasurable tactile experience. Not something you expect of an automatic, but this watch does have that quality about it. The movement is caliber 8400. Master Co-Axial chronometer with the SI14 hairspring and amagnetic qualities equal to and exceeding 15,000 Gauss, so the magnetic flux density that this watch can resist is 15,000 Gauss and up, not 15,000 or 15,000 and under. The watch does feature a display case back despite 300-meter water resistance. It has the anti-magnetic qualities, but also, thanks to the free sprung balance and the full balance bridge, shock-resistant qualities. Twin mainspring barrels energized by bi-directional winding, smooth bi-directional winding, enable the watch to run for 60 hours when fully wound, so a superior power reserve, far more than the industry standard of 38 to 42. The timepiece also features the coaxial escapement, originally envisioned by George Daniels, implemented by Omega in 1999 and refined ever since. This is the latest version that beats away at the quirky coaxial rate of 25,200 vibrations per hour, and it is the tri-level coaxial arrangement, the latest and the most durable, also the most accurate, that finally realizes the original promise of the system, which was long-term timing stability, short-term timing precision, and of course reduced maintenance requirements. The watch also features a number of handsome, if machine-finished elements. Machine finishing is also important because it shows the level of care and attention to detail that the designers lavished on the watch, and here 2 unique techniques are employed. There is a spiral-style arabesque Côte de Genève, and the screws are oxidized black, not the more common blue or polish. A handsome and versatile watch, a striking sight day or night, and arguably the only watch you'll ever need, in that it is equally appropriate in a business suit or a bathing suit. You can see and you can purchase this Omega Seamaster 300 in titanium on our website. In case you have any doubts about the luminescent punch of patina-style superluminova, this is the Omega Seamaster 300, a vintage-style dive watch with a remarkable contemporary diving utility. I even appreciate the logic of changing the color of the luminescent material for the minute hand and the corresponding pearl on the rotating bezel. You can see and you can purchase this vintage-inspired contemporary diver on our website.